Hey everyone, today we are going to be talking about Space Marine 2, and this game is basically developed by Saber, who made the World War Z game that I've been playing for quite a few years. I have not had the chance to play this yet, and I'm also not too familiar with the lore, but I saw some gameplay trailers and preview videos which reminded me of World War Z. So we'll be making a comparison between the two games. So first off, Space Marine 2 uses the Horde engine that World War Z has. Essentially, as you see, World War Z, you get large swarms of zombies that runs at you, and a unique characteristic is that they will pile up along the wall or a fence and forms a pyramid, and then they'll start climbing up the platform, and you'll basically be fending against large swarms of zombies. And so likewise in Space Marine 2, based on the gameplay trailers and the preview videos, you are also fighting against large swarms of Tyranids. And you also have the similar mechanic, where they form a pyramid and invade the platform and they'll surround you. And so this is one of the unique mechanic that other PvE games, generally have. This brings us to the gameplay mechanics. So both games are third-person shooters, but Space Marine 2 is more close combat focused. You have melee finishes, as well as the dodge and parry mechanic. And it does make sense having this, because if you consider how you are in close combat most of the time, and having tons of Tyranids around you, coupled with these special Tyranids, as well as the bosses, see in this clip here, which are a lot tankier. And you also do have ranged enemies as well firing at you from a distance, so you do need a dodge and a parry mechanic to avoid damage as much as possible. Whereas in World War Z, we only have a sprint and crouch button, and primarily we are using our guns to kill off the zombies. And essentially one main difference you can see is the amount of ammo that we have. This AK that I'm using has a lot more ammo as compared to the weapons that's showcased in the trailers and the videos in Space Marine 2. So gunplay is definitely a lot more prominent in World War Z. The melee, as you can see, is mainly used to push back the zombies, to give yourself a bit of space so you can reposition, and to make use of the gun to gun down the zombies quickly and as fast as possible. So you do have specials as well in this game. As you can see, this highlighted zombie is a boob that charges at you, but you do have methods to take care of them quickly, so you don't really require that dodge or parry mechanic that Space Marine 2 has. So in Space Marine 2, there are 6 unique classes. Tactical class has an Auspex ability that highlights enemies and increases the damage that they take. The Assault class has a jump pack that allows you to attack from high ground. The Vanguard class has a grapnel launcher that allows you to close the distance to an enemy. The Bulwark class has a banner that replenishes you and your allies' armor. Sniper has a camo ability that allows you to sneak up on enemies and to move aggro. And lastly, the Heavy class can generate a shield to absorb any damage. As for the perk system, as you level up your classes, you'll unlock the perks in this section. Once it is fully maxed out, all the perks will be unlocked, and you get to choose one perk from each column to customize your class loadout. Essentially, you will have a total of 9 active perks. World War Z also has different classes. There's Gunslinger, a DPS that relies on guns and getting headshots. There's Hellraiser that utilizes explosives to clear hordes and specials quickly. Medic, which is a support class focusing on keeping the team healthy and out of trouble. I won't go into much detail, but what I want to show more is the perk system. Basically, it is very similar to what we saw in Space Marine 2. In this case, you have 4 red perks which are always active, and in between there are 9 columns of grey perks, whereby once again you can select one in each column, have a total of 9 active perks. In Space Marine 2, weapons also have a leveling system with perks available for selection, so you can set up your weapon loadout to suit your class configuration. The melee weapon and gun stats in Space Marine 2 also closely resembles those in World War Z. Guns in World War Z has a slightly different leveling system, but overall the gun modifiers are very similar. Likewise, for melee weapon, we also have very similar stats, the damage, swing speed, as well as the number of targets that you can hit. and this differs between the light melee, medium and heavy melee weapons in World War Z, which is a little bit more simplified in our case. Next, we'll cover the game modes. In Space Marine 2, you have a campaign or story mode, whereby you'll play the game as Titus, and you basically introduce the 40k universe. From what I understand, there's no class selection in story mode, but you can still do it in co-op with up to 3 players. Then there's the Operations mode, where you can select specific missions to play from. This is where you can select your classes and specific loadouts, which provides a bit more replayability. And once again, it is also a 3-player co-op, and there's apparently only 6 missions that you can choose from at the start, which does feel a little bit limited. But if you consider you have 6 different classes to choose from, you know, there's quite a bit of things to play for a while, at least until they release more missions in the next few months. The game modes are very similar to the Operations mode in Space Marine 2. Essentially, you can pick any chapters in any of these episodes to play from. And for example, in episode 1 New York, there's 4 chapters and you can pick any of them to play immediately. There is no campaign or story mode, but there is a simple story as to how or why the survivors are, going from one place to another as they proceed, around New York, for example. And then there's other episodes like Jerusalem, Moscow, Tokyo that covers different parts of the world. Last but not least, we have the PvP. In Space Marine 2, you get to pick a class for PvP with several modes available, and you can use their unique abilities. And this is the same in World War Z, but with the additional zombies in the background. And I don't play PvP much in World War Z, but from what I understand, there's no leaderboards or ranking whatsoever, so it is actually a fairly casual gameplay for anyone who's interested, in some PvP action. Next, we'll look at some possible future content. Judging by how similar the structure of the game is compared to World War Z, it is likely that we'll get similar updates to Space Marine 2 as well. First, there'll be a new game mode, which is Horde mode, where you'll be fending off waves of the enemies. And if you consider how Space Marine 1 also has this game mode, it's very likely we'll also get this in the near future as part of the update. Next, we can expect more new maps, enemies, guns and classes, as well as cosmetics as likely additions in the future, which I think the developers have mentioned some of them. So in World War Z, as you can see, we now have 8 episodes. Each of them has at least 3 chapters, so that's actually 24 operations that you can play. Initially, we only had 4 episodes, and the other 4 episodes were added in the span of the last 5 years. They also added several Horde maps as well. So we have 3 different Horde maps and 3 different Horde XL maps, which are much larger in size. So these are essentially the new additions. They also added additional classes. So for example, Drone Master and Vanguard are new additions that were also added in the past few updates. Another addition that they made to the perk system in World War Z is that they added an additional row of perks, a 4th row, which allows extra customizations of the classes and the loadouts. So this could potentially be something that they can add as well in the future for Space Marine 2. And another system that they have added is the Prestige system. So once you have leveled up your class to level 30, which is the max level in World War Z, you can actually prestige your class, and this will actually reset your class back to level 1, but then you'll get a prestige 1. In this case, my gunslinger is prestige 9, and what it does is it unlocks an additional core perk that your class will have. It's a small benefit that does not need to be selected, so it will always be active, gives your class a small buff. So it probably wouldn't take too long for players to max out the class levels in Space Marine 2. So with the addition of prestige levels, it can provide them with some more things to grind, and also act as a form of end game content, so to speak. Lastly, what I think they can potentially add will be an additional difficulty. Say if they were to introduce prestige levels, which then makes your class stronger, they can pump up the difficulty levels of the game to make it more balanced. One other thing that they can potentially add will be mission modifiers, or you call it mutators in World War Z. Essentially, there are different mutators. For example, you can have Restless Horde, where the waves arrive twice as often. You can have Small Farmer, where you won't find any medical items in the mission. You can have Undying, where special zombies will have twice as much health. These can all be randomized to make the game harder, as well as more replayable. So I'm pretty excited for the game, having played World War Z for such a long time, and I'm itching to try something new. And the game seems to be a bit more close combat focused with the melee executions, the dodging and the parry mechanics. Even though I'm generally prefer more gunplay, like what you see in World War Z, I've played Darktide, which is quite melee centric as well, and I did enjoy that. So I think I'll be able to enjoy the game mechanic in Space Marine as well. What I like is that the class and weapon customizations are quite straightforward, and that may appeal certain players, compared to say Darktide, which requires a lot of RNG to get good weapons. I personally prefer this straightforward leveling mechanic, where you get the amount of rewards based on the amount of effort you put in to grind or level the classes. And if we consider how the game is very similar to World War Z, I would expect the operations in Space Marine 2 to be fairly linear. So it is expected that some people may get bored of it fairly quickly. Hopefully they'll add in either more operations or mission modifiers to add in that extra layer of replayability into the game, so as to keep the players engaged. Also, last but not least, World War Z has been getting updates for the past 5 years, so hopefully we'll see at least the same level of support for Space Marine 2, and hopefully again in a shorter time frame. I'm really excited to try Space Marine 2 when it comes out, and will definitely make more gameplay videos and guides for it once I get my hands on it. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video.